Welcome to the Stay Ready Real Estate Podcast, where we stay ready so you don't have to get ready. I'm Emeka, your host, and this podcast is all about real estate, investing in real estate. I invest in multifamily, and I'm here to show you that regular people can invest in real estate. You don't need to have billions or millions. It's regular people like you and I who can invest in real estate today. So on this podcast, you'll hear from myself, as well as I'll bring different real estate professionals on from around the world to talk about their investing journey, strategies, market insights, or how they got into real estate so you can get started today as well. Stay ready, my friends. Hope you enjoy.
All right, my man Scott, you want to tell a little bit, do you want to tell the world a little bit about what you do, who you are?
Yeah, I'm known across the country as the note guy. I call Austin, Texas home, but for the last, golly, hard to believe, almost 20 years as a real estate investor, actually 21 years as a real estate investor. In the last 15, I've been focused on the world of buying and investing in distressed notes. That's why we have the company called We Close Notes, Note Night in America, the Note Closer Show podcast. It's all about buying and investing in notes or mortgage debt that's backed by residential or commercial properties. And I focus on the niche of buying non-performing notes direct from banks. And what is a non-performing note? That's a note where somebody hasn't paid in 6 months or 6 years, and we buy that debt at a huge discount because they're in distress, become the lender, and then work with the homeowner in some sort of fashion to either get them back on track, liquidate the asset, or if they won't play ball, then we foreclose. But I've called Austin, Texas home. Like, love helping investors out, love what you're doing for your community, and just here to help educate anybody out there looking in getting into real estate investing, notes, raising capital, whatever it might be for you.
No, I love to hear it. I'm from Austin, so I love everything about Austin. I know it's a tough market to be in, but if you get in it and stay in it, you're going to be there for the long haul. But have you always been into notes? Is that how you got started? When did you become the note guy and why notes?
So I went to school in Southwest in San Marcos, just south of here at Texas
Okay.
State University. And no, when I first started off as a real estate investor, I actually bought my primary residence and bought a couple investment properties and thought I was going to be the next landlord here in Central Texas. But I lived in Round Rock. My two investment properties were up there, and the employer for my two tenants laid them off, and then I got laid off from my employer. So I went to be in a distressed borrower pretty fast, and did not like the rental market at that point. I'm not good at toilets, tents, and trash outs. So I got rid of those two investment properties, kept my house from going to foreclosure by doing a loan mod, and then kind of said, okay, I'm not ready for real estate investing. I don't know everything from watching Tim the Toolman Taylor and growing up in a hardware store. You know what I mean? I think the only
Yeah.
person that made money on those deals was our realtor at the time. But fast forward a couple years, a buddy of mine was starting a mortgage company with a couple of real estate investors who were traveling the country, speaking about real estate investing, doing owner financing, creative financing. And I went to lunch for him with him and realized this is what I want to do. At that time, I was one of the top bankers for JP Morgan Chase here in Austin and state Texas, but I still had that entrepreneur bug. And so I said, okay. Went home, talked with the wife at the time. She's like, well, this is what you want to do. We can always go back to banking. So that's what I did. So started doing mortgages for real estate investors and basically had like a 4 year apprenticeship where I learned from Bob and Jamie, who were teaching me all these creative ways to do real estate and learning and from the back of the room from sitting in hundreds and hundreds of conferences from and seeing people speak and mastermind events. So I said, well, I like this note space. I started doing note investing and real estate investing the right way. And then when everything hit the fan in 2008 in the mortgage market, I just kind of gave my half of the mortgage company away and dove headfirst into calling the same banks I was originating for to get lists of notes sent to me. And like I called Wells Fargo Financial. I had a guy, Steve, over there who sent me a list of like 300 notes that I could cherry pick from. And it's been a love affair ever since then. And now, if you fast forward, now we've bought over $1 billion. I think we're coming up on $2 billion in distressed debt, residential, commercial stuff. And I like the note strategy because, as you said, Austin's a competitive market. So actually, about 99% of what I buy is outside of Texas in other states, but I do it from living here or traveling to the Dominican Republic on vacation or Barcelona. I like it because I'm not so focused on me having to do all the work. That's what I like. And once you've rehabbed properties and dealt with toilets and tents, it can be a very non-passive game. And I like it the fact that we do a lot in finding deals and raising capital, but once we close on a note, we hand that over for servicing to a servicing company. If we're going to foreclose, we hand over the attorney, and then we go from there. I'm not having to talk with the borrowers. I mean, sometimes we'll negotiate some things, but for the most part, it's kind of hands off without having to deal with a lot of stuff besides via email and spreadsheets for the most part.
No, that's cool. That's cool. It sounds like it's less labor, less sweat equity that's involved, or if it is, it's a different kind of sweat equity.
Yeah.
But you came from the banking world. You said you're one of the top bankers for JP Morgan. But how does someone who's not in the banking world and they're watching this or listening to this, how do they get into this? And where do they start?
Yeah, you don't have to be a ex-banker to buy mortgage notes. I mean, I didn't buy anything from JP Morgan Chase because they won't sell you anything below $50 million. So don't let that stop you. Obviously, it's good to have a good general base of real estate investing and what's going on and stuff like that. So going to your local real estate club is a great spot. Learning about what's going on in the mortgage space is always kind of a great thing. And there's things like the Mortgage Point or dsnews.com. I think may have changed its name now, but to get started, I mean, there's a ton of YouTube videos. You might check out the number one YouTube video for note investing called WeCloseNotes.tv, which is my channel. It could be the Note Closer Show podcast, which we're coming up on our 1000th episode as well. But start learning. I mean, you can use your IRA, self-directed IRA to buy notes. You could borrow money from other people's IRA to buy notes. You don't need to have $1 million to buy notes. We've had students that have bought a small note in Mississippi for $1,500 that returned 25% return to him. With a small. I got another guy Sterling out of Portland, Oregon. He bought a non-performing note down in Florida, got it reperforming, and it's bringing in a 28% cash and cash return to him. I've got another investor, Keith out of Arkansas, bought a note for 15 grand on a $90,000 mortgage, and the borrower paid him off in full in 6 months. So you got to learn the process like any other niche. You got to get educated. That's one of the biggest things. And we have classes and stuff like that. But the most important part is not try to be a jack of all trades. I think that's where a lot of real estate investors fall flat in their faces. They're going from one strategy to another strategy to another strategy to another strategy, and each strategy is different when it comes to marketing and evaluating. So really spend some time learning on the one niche. If you like notes, great, go to our website. We've got a ton of material there for you. And then start looking at putting deals together. I mean, we buy notes from a variety of either hedge funds or some mortgage companies, but you can often find a lot of notes for sale by reaching out to the right departments at banks or the right people at banks. By using just LinkedIn, a free LinkedIn account can help you find deals.
No, cool. And just for those novice investors here, explain what a note is.
Yeah. So note is an IOU. Most people are on the wrong side of the note business. If you've got a mortgage, credit cards, student loan debt, an auto loan, you're in the mortgage bit, you're in the note business, but you're on the wrong side. You're paying to a lender, a banker of some sort. What you want to do when you buy a mortgage note is you want to be receiving the payments as a lender. And that's what we do when we're buying that mortgage or that debt. We're buying it at a discount so that we can start receiving payments that are going to be at a double-digit return for us. You can buy first liens, you can buy second liens, you can buy, mortgage notes, liens on all sorts of residential properties, property types, stuff like that. I like to prefer to be in the first lien position, which means you're the senior lien position. Nothing's going to wipe you out except taxes and or God, but that's why we pay for insurance on stuff. So, and you can buy the one-off notes. You don't have to have $5 million or $50 million. There are some online platforms you can take a look at. The idea is just to start getting your feet wet like anything else.
No, I love that. And, basically it sounds like no matter if you know about notes or not, somehow, some way, people are involved in a note. And it's just a matter of finding the right note or seeing if someone wants to sell their note or their debt to someone else. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can buy owner finance notes where somebody owner financed a property to an end buyer on terms. And oftentimes those owner finance people, investors that may want to sell that note to get a big chunk of cash flow after 12 or 24 months of period. So the note business is not as secret as you would think it to be. It is a smaller niche than like fix and flipping or wholesaling or landlords. But there's when most people think about notes or note investing, they're just creating notes like owner finance a property, and that's one niche. But you can buy notes from banks and lenders and hedge funds and all that stuff. And the misconceptions out there that a bank won't sell to you because you're too small is stupid. It's ignorant. I mean, if a bank will sell me a note, an Ingle Dink from Ingleside, Texas, they'll sell to you as well if you just know what to say and what not to say.
Cool. Well, the two things that's promised in this life here in America are death and taxes. So you talked about taxes very briefly, but how are taxes measured with this? Since if you're just receiving income, I'm assuming you're receiving interest as well. Are you taxed higher? How different is it from owning an actual physical asset?
So great. Let's talk about what you don't get. So when you buy a mortgage note, you're not going to get depreciation like you would on a building, being able to do that because you're buying the debt. And if you buy a non-performing note and then modify it, like literally modify the terms, change the interest rate, change the balance, and you do that in less than 12 months, that's treated as a short-term capital gain. So it's at a higher tax rate. Okay. If you just work with a borrower, make them trial payment plans, and don't modify it till after 12 months, then it's just ordinary income, and it's considered a long-term capital gains if it's after 12 months and stuff like that. So that's the thing to look at is like we don't like to do permanent modifications till after 12 months. The nice thing is when we buy a note, we're buying it at a discount. And so if we do forgive debt, one of the nice write-offs is the 1099 on the borrower for whatever amount that you're forgiving them, and then they can write that off, and that reduces your tax consequences. As always, I'm not an accountant or a lawyer. Always seek advice from those professionals out there. But it's got some different kicks to it. But I like the fact that we're buying stuff at a lot cheaper, and so your ROI is a little bit higher. Yeah, the taxes is a little bit different, but you guess what? You off-write that with, you're looking for some write-offs based on the profits and the yield you're getting on stuff. And of course, we do take some property back if we foreclose and it doesn't sell at the auction. Now we own that at an REO and we can do what we want with that, keep it for long term, then do the cost segregation and things like that to reduce our tax accountability.
So is a foreclosure the biggest risk that you'll have owning a note, or is there any other risk that's involved?
Yeah, here's the thing. I always joke about this. You have to approach it as a banker's mindset versus a fix and flipper's mindset, and you got to take the rose-colored glasses out of it. I always joke that a foreclosure is not a bad thing for us because it means we're going to either sell it at the auction or we're going to take it back. And while I don't necessarily want to own real estate all the time, I still will take it back and then I can fix it up, and it's just going to be a bigger payday if we do take the property back. The biggest risk really are not taking action, and that's one of the things where I see investors struggle with, like, oh, I don't want to foreclose. Oh, I want to help people. I'm like, it's great to help people, but some people just don't want to be helped. So you'll run into those issues where a foreclosure drags on 12 months when it should have been 6 months. Or you'll run into something like what happened with COVID every once in 20 years, where foreclosures are stopped or shut down because of things going on. That happened back in 2020. Overnight, we couldn't foreclose on anybody that wasn't paying. Luckily, most of the people kept paying, but you had a few folks that stopped paying and never started paying again. So we just had to wait, 18 to 24 months to finish the foreclosures and go that route. Of course, you always want to double check taxes owed. A tax foreclosure will wipe you out in a lot of cases. So you want to make sure your taxes are always paid. And then, like I said, making sure that the borrower's got insurance in case of an act of God, a flood, a hurricane. And if they don't have insurance, you as the lender need to put insurance on the property. We call that forced place insurance to protect your investment. You're not going to get interior access to a lot of these properties that are occupied because there's somebody in there. So part of the reason that insurance is so important, because if they do trash the property or there's a mold issue or stuff like that, that will protect your investment, protect your investors' money, and then also make sure you get paid and taken care of.
So, what does your portfolio look like now? And how do you even like judge a portfolio with notes? Like obviously you're making income, but are you trying to get a certain amount of notes? Because I know in the asset world, real estate assets, like you're talking about the door count or multifamily. But if I have five notes, those notes can be single family, multifamily, commercial, it sounds like. So
Yeah,
how
but
do
but you're but you're but you're missing up one thing right there. You just put the real estate hat and tried to put the real estate hat on a banker's hat. Okay. As a note investor, you're looking off of cash flow for the most part. Yes, you on non-performing stuff, you'll end up foreclosing. So we split our portfolio up kind of into two different categories. One, the stuff that we're getting for cash flow coming in. And I know a lot of real estate investors out there, shoot for a 200 plus or more rental difference between their expenses and profits coming in. We don't even look at anything but like $300 a month cash flow. We want always to be higher than that. So that's the thing is to look at. Like my biggest goals is always to get a couple hundred notes in that are going to bring it in at least 250 to 300 on my side of the cash flow side, my split's coming in, right? You'll make bigger checks on those that you foreclose on, and then on those, you're going to look to make a 20 grand or more profit, depending on where that asset's located and what the market is and what you're buying it at. You know what I mean? But about a 20-25% annualized return on the fix and flip side, and then we look for a 15 to 20 yield on the performing note side on stuff that we're carrying long term. Does that make sense for you there?
That does, that does. So let's say I'm new, I want to get into real estate. I just listened to you and now I'm obsessed with notes. Can you give the audience three actionable steps that you would recommend doing today or tomorrow to kind of get started in note investing?
Yeah, I mean, you have to know your markets. That's one of the biggest things. People get overwhelmed because they think they're going to buy in all 50 states. You're not going to buy in all 50 states. The first thing is pick three states, 3 to 5 states the most. Pick a judicial state and then a non-judicial state. And what meant by that is some states are very fast to foreclosure, where you don't have to go through a court proceeding. If you're just behind by 90 days and you go and file it at the county records, you can foreclose. Other states are a judicial foreclosure process, like Florida, South Carolina, Kansas, Ohio, which can take a little bit longer to foreclose, like 9 to 12 months versus, like here in Texas, it's 30 days. So I always say pick 3 to 5 states, understand what's going on with those laws as far as foreclosures, and then start researching your markets. Even though you're in the note space, you still need a team. You're still going to need realtors to pull comps for you. You're still going to need vendors to pull O&E. And those are still pretty easy to get. We've got actually ordered both of those things straight on our website. But the idea here is start researching values, knowing what's going on, what's the foreclosure timeframes, and knowing what are the good markets and the bad markets in this, and stick to the major cities. When you're starting off, avoid the podunk little towns, and never buy a note you don't want to end up owning. The real estate is like the 10 commandments of note investing. That's number one. Never buy a note that you don't want to own. But understand, just because you're buying the note doesn't mean you're owned up with the real estate. You're going to buy it from a cash flow perspective first, and that's one of the most important things. Okay, what do they owe? How far behind are they? What's it going to be like if I get them just to start making payments on time, reinstate the loan? If I have them bring a little skin in the game, what's it's going to look like based off what I'm buying? And then just start looking at assets. You can go to some different websites or reach out to me. We can send you notes to take a look at and start breaking those down. Start, listening to some of our classes or take a class or two, our workshop, to learn the notes, the ins and outs. If you can't afford that, hey, YouTube and podcasts are a great way to start figuring it out. But start evaluating deals, start looking at stuff and looking at the spreadsheets and start figuring out what you got going on. Not that difficult. It just takes a little bit of time. So don't overwhelm yourself. Take it one line at a time, because these tapes that we get in these Excel spreadsheets could be anywhere from one note up to like 2,000 notes. And I've seen realtors and people start having stress, panic attacks, like, oh, 2,000. Like, no. Let's pick 3 states. Let's look at the bigger city. Is it in a major city? Oh, it's in Ohio? Great. Let's look. Is it in Columbus? Let's take it one level at a time, because you don't have to buy everything. You can often cherry pick, or as we call it, loan level price a tape for just one note versus 500 of them, and that takes a lot of stress off in a lot of cases. You know what I mean, Emeka?
For sure, for sure. So that's one. You owe me two more actionable steps.
Two
Search
more
your
actionable
market.
step to know your market and start reaching out to investors, because you're going to need private capital to fund these deals. You're not going to go and get a bank loan to give you a note, or a hard money lender is not going to give you a note. So go out and start networking with your local investors in those areas, or start finding real estate clubs in those markets via meetup.com or Facebook or stuff like that, and start reaching out to investors in that area. If it's in your warm market, go to a local investment club and start talking to people. Don't be an introvert and not talk to. Go up to the president or the person running the club and say, hey, I'm kind of new here. Do you have any other note investors here in the thing that I should network with? Or who's your private funders in the area? Those are some of the great ways to network. And the third thing, even if you don't go to the investment club, the third thing is you can go to county appraisal districts and start pulling lists of investors and start marketing to those investors to raise capital to fund your deals. There's a lot of IRA investors out there. Like here in Austin, I can go to Travis County Appraisal District, type in when it asks for an owner name. I can type in Equity Trust or Pensco Trust, and that's going to pull up everybody that's used their Equity Trust self-directed IRA account to buy a piece of property. And I know instantly that they're real estate investors like you and me. They've got money to invest. They're looking for deals. And the great thing about IRA investors, it's got to be passive. They can't be going out and touching it. And so notes are a great investment source, and is actually one of the biggest categories of self-directed IRA funds is into the note business. So those would be the three things. Start looking at, start understanding your market, start networking with local people, and start raising capital, start marketing for money.
I love it. I love it. And with that, we're going to go to the next segment of the show where I ask everyone the same three questions. So, question number one, what are the two books you recommend the aspiring investor to read?
Oh, that's easy. The first one is Think and Grow Rich, Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. Have you read that, Emeka?
I have. I love those books.
That's a great one. I mean, The Outwitting the Devil is one of the ones that'll change your mind and keep you focused. And then Guerrilla Marketing or The E Myth would be my book number 2A and 2B for sure.
No, cool. Those are all great books. I haven't read Guerrilla Marketing, but I would look into that one for sure.
You'll
But
love it.
question number two, what speech or lesson has inspired you in your career?
Oh, that's easy. Going back to where we're at now, I was in Las Vegas at a conference a few years ago, back in about 8, 9 years ago, and I heard two people speak at this conference in Las Vegas. One is Gary Vaynerchuk. I think we all know who Gary V is, right? And then Robert Herjavec, one of the guys from the Shark Tank. And they both got up there and said, you cannot be a secret agent in whatever you want to accomplish. You've got to get the word out. And that, Gary V, this is where before he started doing like Ask Gary V, he's like, you got to go out and leverage video. You got to go out and start sharing your message because people are dying for that message. And I was sitting there in the audience, I remember looking at my better half, like, okay, we're going to go home. We're going to start doing videos daily. We're going to start a podcast. And we did, completely revolutionized to where I'm at now, looking back 10 years ago. So both those, it was similarly eerie. They're both like leverage. Everything is going to video. You got to embrace that and go that route to help you market, finding deals and raising capital. And I can guarantee I've raised a whole lot more capital and closed on a whole lot more deals because I was doing video and sharing what my message and what I was focused on. And a lot of investors are scared of that. Don't be scared. Embrace it because everywhere else is going there. So you might as well go on. Embrace the suck is one of the key terms I've always heard. You're going to suck at first, but you can get better every day you move forward.
I love it. And last question, if you could have dinner with anyone dead or alive, who would it be and why?
That's real simple. I'd have dinner with my father. My father passed away about 16 years ago. Growing up, he was my hero and gave me a lot of faith, a lot of work ethic. He was an entrepreneur. My mom is also still alive, thank goodness. But I'd have one more dinner with my dad is what I would do. Definitely because he's was wise beyond his age and just an amazing man. I was very blessed to have him as a father. And that would be very simple. Just to have one more dinner, one more conversation with my father would be what I would choose.
It's beautiful. Now, how can the audience reach out to you? What do you need from the audience? Yeah, let us hear it.
So if you want to get into notes, there's a very easy way to get started. We've got a 1-day class we teach about once a quarter. It's called Note Weekend. You can go watch it. It's about 3.5 hours. I call it the Cliff Notes version of our 3-day workshop, but go to noteweekend.com. You can register there. It's a 3.5 hour video going through how we find, how we fund, and how we flip these things for deals, for cash flow, for money. That's a great starting point. And always you can go to our main website, weclosenotes.com, to book a call with me, to pick my brain, to check out our podcasts, our videos, and our training as well for you. So that's where it's all at. And we're here to help. But you have to do one thing for me, guys. If you're listening to this, Emeka is doing a kick-ass job. And we as podcasters, we always love to hear from our audience. So make sure you go over, hit that 5-star review and subscribe, and make sure you leave a comment for Emeka. If you don't like me, tell me you don't like me. That's fine. But we know you love Emeka because you're showing up and he's bringing on great bets. I'm just an Ingledick from Ingleside, but we want to hear you. You know what I mean?
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I think the audience is going to love it. And then maybe we'll have to have you back on in 365 days.
Hey, sounds good, Emeka. Have a great day, buddy. So honored to be here and keep kicking ass, man.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to the Stay Ready Real Estate Podcast, where we stay ready so you don't have to get ready. If you enjoyed this podcast today, please give me a like and subscribe, and tune in next week so you can hear another one. If you ever want to reach out to me, I'd love to talk to you about real estate. If you're ever interested in any of the deals that I have, I'm based here in Central Florida, reach out. My information is below. Hope to see you next week. Stay ready, my friend.